Well, today we're going to be talking about busted plumbing lines underneath the ground. A lot of times these things will break and you can't get the water out of the line. In other words, there's still a trickle of water and you cannot solder fittings while there's water coming down the line. So I'm going to show you a way that I use. I mean, you probably may have your own way, but this is my way. But in any case, if we have a split here, what we have to do, we have to cut out two sections in order to fix it, because sometimes we don't have the room to just cut it. Well, I should say, a lot of the times you have a busted water line from freezing, which it usually splits the pipe in about an inch or more. So you really have to cut out a section in order to be able to fix that, repair that one area. Get up here on the table and do this. I've already got the one cut. All we got to do is we just need to cut it again in order to get a section of pipe in there, because if the frozen split is right here, then we need to cut out a little more on each side of it, because a lot of times the pipe will swell and you can't get a fitting on there. So we need to cut it back far enough to where we can get a good section of pipe. Alright, we got our section cut out, and there's two different fittings that we need here. They're both couplings, but one of them coupling with a stop in it, and I think you can see that little dot down in there. Well, that is the area where they just punch a little stop in there in the middle so that the pipe goes to the center of the coupling and then stops. Okay, the other one is what they call a slip coupling, and there's no stop in there. So the slip coupling is the one that slides on, but it goes all the way. In other words, that's why it's called a slip coupling, because it'll slide all the way on. This gives you an opportunity to fit your pipe on there and slide it up on to your other one. Hooks up everything really well. And you want to make sure that you get more than enough on all your pipes and your fittings. I used just to do the fittings, but then I ran across a water leak one time, and it was because as I slid the fitting on, it slid the flux off of the fitting. So from now on, all I do everything. I do the pipes and the fitting. Because the one I had that I had to redo, it had like 3 elbows in there, and it took me several hours to straighten it up. So we don't want to do that again. We're going to do our fittings, overdo them just as much as you do the pipe. Check it really good. Only takes a second or two to check everything. Now our slip coupling, same thing. Check it. Everything seems to be good. Okay, this is a trick I've learned years ago. I've got a piece of Mrs. Baird's bread. You can use anybody's bread, really. Wheat bread is a little bit more airy, I guess. What do you call it? Well, it's called something, but anyway, the flour bread is more dense. But what we do is we wet this, and if we have water that's dripping out of the main line that you're trying to solder, what we do is we shove this up in there, and this will stop that water long enough to where you can get it soldered. Now there's one thing I have to caution you about. You only have just a minute or two to, once you get this shoved up in there, that you do to have it soldered, because eventually over a couple of minutes this stuff starts falling apart, and then you just got your water leak again. Move our pipe over, stick this in there. and you can use as much as you like. There's really no set amount. Alright, then you want to shove this up in there as far as you can. The farther the better. Okay, I got it packed in there because it doesn't want to move anymore. We've got it pretty well stopped up. And some more flux on my slip coupling. It's always best to be sure. Alright, slide this on there. Then we slide this up on there. Again, we need to knock it in place. Okay, we're up to our mark. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some water. Now you can see I'm heating the underside of this fitting. And once the solder takes on the top, and I'm heating the fitting, not the pipe. Same thing on this other one. Heat the bottom side. So far we're lucky, we don't have any water yet. Like I said, this is typically underground. When you get this done, the best faucet to turn on is your tub faucet. Make sure it's coming out the tub faucet and not the shower. Anything that doesn't have a strainer on it. If all you got is a kitchen sink or a bathroom sink, you need to take the aerator out of it because this bread will stop it up. Anything that doesn't have an aerator, especially don't let it go into the washing machine because it's got a screen on that. That means undoing the hoses and having to clean them out. I mean, it'll eventually go through. Bread will break down into whatever you want to call it, mush. But it sure is aggravating, especially if your kitchen or bathroom faucet stops up for a day or so.